Y'all are. Say, listen, I spent most of last week working on a 7-part edited together video that was going to run about 27 minutes. And it illustrated how to reload from picking up brass on the range with different types of equipment all the way to the finished product. Depriming, resizing, cleaning, difference between loading jacketed bullets and loading lead bullets, producing lead bullets, grading lead, procuring primers, the differences in primers. Basically, there's 4 kinds, large and small, rifle and pistol. So there's large rifle and small rifle, large pistol and small pistol, like that. I got it all put together and ready to run. And so I'd never done a reloading video for YouTube before. So I went to Community Standards and Practices page on YouTube and made a wonderful discovery. They don't like it when you put up reloading videos. They don't like it when you put up scratch gun build videos. And there's about 25,000 reloading videos on YouTube from everybody from, small YouTube creators like myself, and even smaller YouTube creators like myself, all the way up to Larry Potterfield. Nicest looking dentures on the internet, buddy. Anyway, I'm the guy who tries to obey the rules. I'm the guy that tries to teach people to obey the rules. So I'm simply not putting it up. So what am I going to do? Well, I think we can get away with a book review. Yeah. That's the ticket. Book review, see? Yeah. Okay. And the book we're going to review today is this book, okay, which is Modern Reloading, 2nd edition by Richard Lee. Now, Richard Lee is the founder of Lee Reloading, which went into business in the 1950s, making little rudimentary tool sets to load various calibers of firearm or of ammunition. And, over the years, he compiled loads for cartridges that he put into his, for instance, the Lee hand tool set to load, for instance, 30-06. And he would copy loads from NRA publications and from, wherever. Because reloading has always been done, even back in the cowboy days, even back in the post-Civil War days when cartridge firearms first came of age, people started reloading their own ammunition because there's always some guy out there like me that's a cheapskate and wants to get off as cheaply as he possibly can. Been a lot of reloading books over the years, and I probably have 50. The single best one is Modern Reloading by Richard Lee. Now, there are loads in here for literally all of the common cartridges and most of the cartridges that are fairly uncommon. Everything from 218B all the way up to 4570 and 450 lot and 375 Holland and Holland, even 50 BMG. Most of the loads in here are from research done by Lee employees, you know. So the thing of it is, many people have asked me since I started my camel, my camel, my channel. Nope, I'm gonna keep right on going. Since I started my channel to do something with reloading. So I'm not reloading any cartridges on camera and not posting to the internet. However, we are doing a book review, and you will find in this wonderful book, from beginning to end, for instance, this book is designed as a textbook to teach you how to reload. Okay? For instance, there's a great big article in this book on the old original Lee hand tools to reload with. And from start to finish, how to use them. Now, I've seen a lot of these tool sets over the years, and you can load perfectly serviceable cartridges with them. However, many of them that I've seen that are a little older seldom ever have reloading data with them and seldom ever have the instruction set, leaving you with a box of mysterious tools trying to figure out what they're for. So you can get the old Lee Modern Reloading out and take a look at it, and it will teach you step by step how to reload. Now, jotting through this thing, just looking through it here, there is a definition on and a chapter on reloading presses. Most of the presses in here and most of the equipment in here, all of it is Lee manufactured. And this is how it goes with these books, Hornady, Sierra, Lyman, and so forth. When you look at the chapters on how to reload, it'll all depict, their equipment. And that's not a big deal. You can mix and match equipment around. It all services, meets the same criteria of serviceability. There's a chapter in here that explains case preparation and how dies work, how different dies work, which is not always in all of the books. I'm just looking through it. And priming, different mechanisms for powder and priming, different pieces of equipment and how they work. Okay, so you go all the way through this book, and step by step it will teach you how to reload from A to Z. Okay. Loading for handguns. There's a whole chapter in here, a text on loading for handguns, a text on loading for rifles, a text on loading for automatic rifles. Okay, a text on primer safety and powder safety and overall ammunition handling safety. Just everything. Explanations of certified unit of pressure, okay, or the rod of powder, how fast it burns, the differentials between the effectiveness of a powder burn given one cartridge to another, relationship to bullet weight. It's a very detailed. There's a huge glossary on terminology. Table of contents starts at pistol 5.7 by 28 FM and goes all the FN and goes all the way up to 50 line ball. Rifle from 17 Ackley B, and it just keeps going. There's page after page of it in here, and finally winds up at 50 BMG machine gun. Okay. There's a chapter on casting bullets and a chapter on handling lead. A chapter on Burnell hardness, I will do a lead grading video. It doesn't constitute actual reloading, so I will do in the very near future and probably tagged on to the end of this video. Now, another thing you want to look at on your book is how well the particular cartridge is nomenclatured, okay? Which is this. Gives the full dimensions of the cartridge right down to the rim width and the rim diameter, the cartridge case diameter, the depth of the cut for the rim, and so forth. Well, why is that important? Well, if you don't load magnum loads in your brass all the time, your brass will last a long time. But you've got measurements in this book to tell you when your brass needs to be trimmed for length, when your rim is starting to wear out, and things of that nature that you need to know. I'll give you an example. Hornady. I have a Hornady book sitting over there. I looked at it earlier before I started this. Remington 44 Magnum. The Hornady book gives loadings for 6 bullet weights. Okay, it gives several loadings, but it gives them for only 6 bullet weights. And they're all jacketed. Okay, so here is 44 Magnum. 1 page, 2 page, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 pages of loads. And bullets from 165 grain lead bullet, 180 jacketed, 180 jacketed XTP, which is a little bit difference between the two bullets. The thickness of the jacket has a lot to do with the resistance of the bullet as it's traveling down the barrel. 200 grain jacketed bullet, 200 grain lead bullet, 200 grain XTP, again because there's a difference between a common jacketed bullet and the XTP. The thickness of the copper in the bullet jacket makes a resistance differential in your bore. 200 grain XTP, 200 grain jacketed, 220 grain lead, 220 grain copper plated, like a Berry's bullet, 220 grain solid bullet, like a solid copper projectile. 240, 240, 275, 280, jacketed bullets, lead bullets, cladded bullets, plated bullets, and so forth. So the amount of information that's in the Lee book is absolutely tremendous, okay, compared to the other manuals that I own. Now, this is a new book. This book was printed originally this is the 2nd edition. I believe this came out in 2019. Revised and redone. This book has been around for a long time, but the last copyright was reprinted in 2019. So this book was printed in 2019. The first edition book was printed in 2003, I think. So it's updated pretty regularly. As opposed to, I've got Hornady number 1, Hornady number 4, and 7. Now, on the subject of reloading books, are old reloading books good? Yes, they are. If old reloading books are good, why do we have new reloading manuals? Well, because new powders come on the line, new priming formulas come on the line, and new cartridges come on the line. Okay? So, and, things fall out of favor, but are still used. For instance, red dot powder. Red dot powder has been around for 60 years. Longer. I've got a 1947 sporting goods catalog from Sperry in Louisville that shows red dot powder for sale, 1947. So, and it hasn't changed. You can still reload with red dot. You can still buy red dot. Um, but you couldn't reload 5.7s in those days because they didn't exist. So new cartridges, new ballistics on those cartridges, new firearms require new loadings, okay, and new pressure differentials, new resistance differentials, a whole new strain of ballistics comes along every few years. So we have new manuals, okay? There are manuals out there that you can get. For instance, that number 7, 7th edition Hornady book over there has no loadings in it for Hercules or Alliant powders. None. There's 3 pages of 45 automatic over there. None of them have unique, Herco, blue dot, red dot, and so forth. So, you have to pick the book you're going to use. First book should be this one. My recommendation is the first book should be this one. Now you can buy this book on Amazon. You can buy it at the bookstore. No, not that bookstore. Okay, but you can buy it at a bookstore. Yeah, I think you can buy this at Barnes and Noble. You can buy it off Amazon online. You can buy it at Barnes and Noble offline. You can buy it directly from Lee Reloading. Okay, and it's the one to choose. Now, so you're getting into reloading. You have to have the book. You have to have the book because you can't fly reloading at night. Okay? You just can't do it. You have to follow. If I've got a safety tip to give you, it's this. Follow the published loading. Okay? The slide rule boys figured it out. All right? And if it's a published loading in a commonly available and an accepted printing of a book, you can pretty well do it. But do it. Don't play with it. Don't say, well, it calls for 5 grains, but I think I can get away with 6.5. You can get away with it all the way to the emergency room. Your buddy can get away with your mistake all the way to the emergency room and maybe to the morgue. Okay? So we don't play around with it. If it's not in the book, don't you do it. Absolutely not. It looks like 748 powder, so it must be 748 powder. The simple fact of the matter is, if you can't identify the powder, or you've made a mistake and dumped the wrong powder in the wrong hopper, this is where it goes. Scrap powder, do not load. See the skull and crossbones on there? Scrap powder, do not load. If you make a mistake and drop powder in the wrong hopper or put 2 powders in the same hopper in there together, it all goes in here. Okay, and you get rid of it somehow. Okay? One more thing before I go. There seems to be, because of the current primer shortage and the current reloading supply shortage, a movement within the shooting community that seems to think that you can put a small rifle primer in a small pistol case. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. You just have to do without. You'll have to make primers out of roll caps or something, but don't you do that. Okay? Don't put a large rifle primer into a 45 and go to shoot it. And I'm going to tell you why in a nutshell. 1, a rifle primer is taller than a pistol primer. That means that the rifle primer will not fit in the primer pocket deep enough to get correct seating. Okay? What happens? Well, as that cartridge case goes into battery, as that slide comes forward on it and it drags against that battery face of the slide, the friction can detonate that cartridge. The friction can detonate that primer and cause that weapon to fire out a battery very easily. Okay? Or if it slams against it hard enough, it would have the same effect as an open bolt submachine gun. It slams in the battery and fires out a battery. Okay? Because the primer is protruding a little bit. Okay? In a revolver, as that cartridge case is dragging around on the battery face of the revolver's frame, which is that flared out part at the back of the frame where the cylinder goes in, as it's dragging around through there, dragging against that battery face, the friction can cause that primer to fire. And if it ain't lined up in the chamber, up in the barrel into the forcing cone, it fires out a battery. It's like a chain fire on a percussion revolver. Somebody's in big trouble. Okay? It ain't worth it. Okay? You just have to do without that particular cartridge or that particular chambering for a little while. If you don't have any, you'll have to shoot something else. But don't you do that. Absolutely do not do that. Well, now that we've had a nice lecture, I'm going to cut it off right here. Like, teach, share, commentate, and subscribe. Join the NRA, buddy. We're going to need them. Y'all have a blessed 2A day. Be kind to one another and keep being careful in these goofy times. I've said it 1,000,000 times. I'll keep right on saying it. I don't think it's as bad as they let on, but there is danger. And get your flu shot. All right, then. We'll see y'all.